Time to narrow it down. So here again we have two different designs that I thought would be interesting. This one, but this one looks like a lot like a spider, so maybe I'll start with this one, which provides a bit of a bigger challenge. And I can always revert back to the other one if I need to. But at some point you have to make a decision, and I'm going to go as with this one for the starter. And then let's see if I can incorporate some of these other pieces in here. So here is this hull, and what I will do is resize the hull and see if it will add more. So here I'm looking at the silhouette. I still want the compelling silhouette that the first one had, but also maybe include some bigger areas for the people to be in, as this was a little bit thinner. And you can always also turn the hull completely around like this to see if that works any better. So you can try different combinations. So here I'm trying to see if this hull would look better like this or the other way around. And you know, this looks interesting. I'll just leave it for now and just bounce back to the next one over here. And see if this one will add any visual interest. And again, at this point I can scale these up and down to choose different scaling and see if this one actually looks really nice. I like the way it added to the silhouette, so I think this one might be a winner. Again, I might need to do some editing on the leg areas over here, but just going to stay with that for now. And then there's this one. Let's go ahead and see if this one adds anything compelling to it as well. I kind of like the way these arms are going over, but maybe not. So at this point I'm going to make another decision to delete this one part as well. So I have two hull options that I thought would look compelling, and of course I can always combine those too. So maybe the combination of the two doesn't really look like it did much, so I might omit the first one and just stay with this design right here. But for now I'm not going to delete that one and just continue moving down my list of parts. So here is kind of that rear bridge, and let's go ahead and bring that down over here and add it to the back. And let's make sure that the gizmo is centered here. Add it to the back and see if that adds an interesting part to this, and I kind of like it, so I will leave it there. And again, we're going to be playing around with some of the other parts to see if that works. So here's a mechanism that could be the arms in the front. So I'll go ahead and move that over down to the front and see if that looks compelling. And notice here that all of these were different mechs, but somehow the design parts that won, so to speak, and made it compelling are, I'm looking to see if I can incorporate them into a final design here. So I can try different iterations here, maybe move it down. I can completely rotate it around this way to see if that looks any better or adds any other form of visual interest. And it doesn't seem like it did. So I think I'm going to delete this one as well. So the culling continues, so to speak, of the parts, but I did want to keep those just to see how they would work. So here's the pilot station, and let's go ahead and put that in the front, see if that looks good. And I kind of like it. So here I'm looking at the silhouette. The silhouette is always very valuable to evaluate the way the thing looks, especially from the front, 3/4. And by the way, this icon here you can click on to get that 3/4 view. Turning perspective on sometimes helps too, but I'm keeping it in isometric right now because I just want a more kind of a diagrammic shape or mechanical shape of the design. Okay, so this looks okay. I might leave it there, but let's switch on to this one and see if this will work. So again, I'm just scaling it and moving it into place. Seems like these two things are conflicting, so maybe I can try and do it this way. And it created an interesting look where the arms actually go around this way, and I kind of like that. So I guess I can see if this mechanism will work. And I will leave it there for now and just keep moving down the list. So I'm just going to shrink this group down, move down to the legs, and see if these legs actually work better. From the top silhouette, they kind of do, but they're really, really gigantic. So I'm going to shrink them down and see if these legs would work better than the legs of the mech I have. So at this point, I think what I'm going to do is break out my mech's legs, because those are the things that were really, I like the gesture of the way they are, but I don't know if I want to keep these legs, because these legs don't look like they could, it looks more like a hopping kind of mechanism versus a scurrying along mechanism. So what I'm going to do here is separate out the legs, and to do that, what I'm going to do is use the select lasso, and just select the hull of the mech, and might need to add some of these parts back in, specifically these ones. And here I'm just going to turn on double so I can see the double-sidedness of this. And I think I want to keep these parts and symmetry on. Nope. Turn that on, and I just want to make sure that I keep those parts of the hull and this back part here too. So again, Control and Shift together are giving me this effect. And so now I've just separated out the legs from the mech, and I'm going to go ahead and split hidden. So now I have the legs separate from the mech itself. Here's the body. And it looks like I did capture parts of the legs here, but I can very easily hide those like this. And I don't know if bearing is on over here, so I'm just going to go ahead and take off all the leg parts here so I can just add them to the other one. Okay, so now I've got the hull as its own piece, and then I'm going to split all the hidden points that I just hid, and I'm going to merge those with the legs. So here, move the legs down, and then merge these down this way. Okay, and then so all the leg parts are together. Looks like I've got this one little piece here that I'm going to just omit for now. So these are going to be the leg pieces, and then this is going to be the hull piece. And what I'm going to do here is just to ensure that they're the same, I'm going to mirror and weld, and that's under Geometry, Mirror and Weld. So now I know that I have a symmetrical model. And one last thing I'm going to do is close holes, which is going to close these holes. And it's going to choose this blue color because that's the color I have. If I want it to be the orange color, I can just choose the orange color. And again, close those holes like this. And go into Sculptris Pro mode for my smoothing, and smooth these down a little bit. And again, I don't really want to destroy a lot of the designs I have here. I think I was a little too harsh. I can of course adjust the tessellation levels, but I think here all I'm going to do is just make sure that I've got no kind of hanging edges. And then here with the legs, I'm going to do the exact same process, and I don't know how close holes is going to work, but it worked perfectly. And again, there's this one hanging bit which I can delete, and just soften this up like so as well. Again, not to worry too much about different details. Nice thing about Sculptris Pro is that it gets rid of certain parts, and if I want this to be symmetric, again, I can do that mirror and weld action. That ensures that I get symmetric parts. Okay, so I've got that and the top of the mech, and so now I can see what that mech would look like with different legs. And for another good measure, I'm going to separate these out as well. So here I'm just going to split hidden. Okay, so now I've got the back legs separate from the front legs, and I can see, because I had a couple of back legs there, that might work better. Okay, so here I'm going to switch off of solo. These are the parts I've kept so far, and we're going to try out those hind legs to see if this one works better. So I'm liking the design of these ones a lot. Let me just put these back on. So let's go ahead and move and resize these legs to see if I can get a better the silhouette looks really good, and it looks good from the top. Maybe make these a little bit smaller like this, and also make sure that they level off. It looks like I've got a little bit of work to do here. Maybe I'll rotate them down like this and see if that still works. And I can manipulate these a little bit more if I want to, but I think that looks okay. And then for these front legs, what I can do here is just go to the Move tool and move them down further like this to see if they match up. And I like this front leg the way it is set up. So I'm going to keep that, switch back to the hind legs, and see if I can get a more interesting gesture. I should turn symmetry on for these guys. Like so. And also I'm going to mirror and weld it so I've got symmetric parts. And try and place this into the location of these hind legs. And see, this is a design that works for me. However, again, it doesn't look like it's going to scurry along as much. So I'm going to try and see if I can make that work with these legs, and if not, I've got a whole other set of legs that I can use. All right, so this for now is looking okay for me as far as the design is concerned, but here I'll switch over to these other legs and see how they work. So here I'm just going to go ahead and center my pivot on them. I guess I should select those legs first. Resize, bring it over like that, and see how that looks. And that kind of looks nice too. It looks like it's a nice sturdy way to hold the mech together. And here I'll move these around to where I think they would be best. And yeah, so this looks like a pretty sturdy stance. But I don't know if these spell scurrying or moving really fast to me. So let's go ahead and try this other set of legs. And here I'm going to go ahead and hide this front leg. And then this other set of legs here that I've selected. The good thing about them is they have 8 different legs. So that is how a spider moves really fast, and maybe resize it further down here. So this looks like it would scurry along a lot more than what I had previously. And also it's lower to the ground, but then it's got this huge base that I have to figure out how to bury into the mech design and maybe do something like this, which is making this a little bit closer to what I had before of the red mech's design, but it's still got some of the components that I really like, so I'm happy with this. Another thing I might want to do is make these legs thinner, so I'm just going to go into the deformation here and choose to maybe use a inflate, but inflate them negatively so they're thinner, like this. And that's going to maybe destroy the geometry a little bit, but that's okay because I can always redynamesh this and clean it up. So here from the front it's looking okay, and then from the top it's looking okay as well. So I think that this is one of the looks that we are going to decide on. And last but not least, let me see if I can do something with these guns and place them over here like this and see if they look better than the guns that are there, and they kind of do. And this is symmetric, so I could just move it over and place it over here. So this is the way the guns would operate, and this whole thing again folds back. I'm liking what I see so far as this design is concerned. I think I overinflated these a bit too much, so I'm going to go back to the original shape and then maybe use the inflate brush, this one right here, to go ahead and deflate them. So let's make sure symmetry's on here. And so this will inflate, but if I use the Alt option, then that will deflate them further down. And I can just maybe bring it more to a point. And these legs have really very less visual interest than some of the other ones that I had, but again, kit bash parts can help that. I just want to make sure that the gesture itself is working. One other thing I want to do here is maybe push these legs out a bit by using the extender deformation. Okay, I just want to make sure symmetry is off to do that. An extender is really nice because here I can choose the starting point. So let's say between these two legs, and what I want to do here is separate the distance between the front and the rear 4 legs. So here I'm just using this to move that further out. And this is working a little bit better. Again, always evaluating this in the silhouette mode just to make sure that that's working. And that looks good. And here I can just smooth out, maybe not so strongly, smooth out these parts like so. Actually, that was fine. And then just mirror and weld it to get my symmetry back. And I think this gesture here is looking a little bit better for my Mac. And I like the legs kind of short like this because that means they can move faster and go over certain terrain. And just watching some spider videos, this type of thing works for me. So yeah, so this leg structure looks okay, but here, one more time, let me go ahead and reevaluate what I had before to see if that would be more compelling. So I think these rear legs are definitely not going to be used. But I will leave them there for now. But this front leg version, so here is another version of what I had, and I'm thinking whether or not to use this. So here what I'm going to do is with these front legs, I'm going to move them a little bit more forward like this, and then also I'm going to separate them out. So here I'm going to separate the front legs from the hind legs like so. So split hidden. And I'm going to give ZBrush a chance to autosave. The autosave is a lifesaver sometimes. And here, for these legs right here that I just did, the middle legs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate them. So just control dragging duplicates it. And I'm going to split the masked points into another tool. And the reason why I did this is because I want to just rotate these and get the, let me turn off symmetry here. I want to rotate these and get that 4th set of legs like this, see if that works. Excuse me, to create kind of more of the scurrying along type of design that I've wanted. And that's looking a little bit too symmetrical, so maybe what I will do here is go back to activating the symmetry, move my pivot over to here and rotate this back like so to see if that creates a more compelling shape. And it sort of does. So here is another possibility of the legs. So I could either go with this design, and at this point I think these are going to be the legs that I'm going to choose. Let me bring back these hind legs to see if they make a big difference in the design. Actually, these ones look a little bit better, but again, I'll bring these ones back and possibly these ones. So let's go ahead and take a look at all these different hind legs and choose which one works for us. We're getting very close to narrowing out our design at this point. But again, all this is being evaluated here in the silhouette view. So we're going to try and see if these legs work right here. It looks interesting from the top view. It looks okay from this view over here, but maybe possibly move these legs back a bit like so. Let's see if that looks any better. It looks good in silhouette mode. So that's definitely a possibility, or these ones right here. Looks interesting in silhouette mode, but I think at this point I'm pretty happy with not using this one, so I'm going to delete it. Again, just kind of narrowing it down, and then I'm basically set on this as one option as the hind leg, or this as the other option for the hind leg. So here, evaluating it in silhouette mode, deciding which one is the one that I want to go with. And I like this one a little bit more because I think it creates a better environment for the different soldiers to come out, I think. And I kind of like this plated view here. Maybe the soldiers can also come out while the mech is extended like this and just walk down or run down the legs. and that's definitely better than this one. So these hind legs can go at this point, right? And I might need to do a little bit of adjusting for these ones. Maybe make them a little bit longer, like so, and maybe move them up a little bit more like that. And let's just see if I put this on the ground level over here, if that's okay. And they look okay. I might need to move this end a little bit further down. Okay, so from the top, this has the visual interest that I like. These middle legs don't look that interesting, but I can take care of that with Kitbash parts. I'm not worried about that right now. One other thing I want to do maybe is for this hull, extend out the back just a little bit more and maybe shrink it down. So again, all this editing I'm still doing on this at this point, even after I spent all the time putting the designs. But again, all those really help me in getting to this final design. So I'm good with this as a final silhouette. And now I just need to see. So the legs are called to what I need. At this point, I'm going to not use this set, so I can delete it as well. So that's gone. And here I no longer need to have these being separate pieces. So I'm going to move this in with the main body of what I have. And same thing with the hulls. I guess I decided not to use this one, so I'm going to delete it. Actually, let's see if I can purpose it somehow in here by shrinking the size and moving it anywhere. Maybe rotating it back to the way it was and seeing if that adds a more interesting hatch. And it kind of does. It has a more interesting hatch than what I had before, so I'm going to actually include this as well. All right, so I'm going to be moving these out of their folders into the main folder here. And now that I've got this, let me move it in just a little bit more. Okay, so this is looking pretty interesting over on this side. And then let's go ahead and reevaluate. So I'm going to include these guns, so I'm going to move those up as well. Okay, so this is what I have so far, and the colors might be confusing at this point, so I will go ahead and fill these all with the same color in just a few minutes. Actually, I should do that now because this would be a good time to have these all be uniform. So I'm going to go with the orange color and just go to this one, fill object with that color, and same thing with this and this. So now they look pretty uniform in their color scheme. Okay, and one of the things I also want to do here is maybe move the legs further down. So I can also join the legs up at this point. I don't really need them to be separate pieces, so I'm just going to merge down on these legs. So there's that. Oops. Did I merge down the whole mech? I did. I kept that initial mech, I guess, still. So I'm going to go here and split those back out. So split to parts. Okay. And I don't no longer need this initial mech, so I'm going to delete it. And it seems like there's a bunch of little other subtools, and these are probably just little, particles that were separated out. So I can very easily just go down this list and delete them. So I just get back to the hind legs, and it looks like there's quite a few. And I don't need to worry about any of these because I can very easily have done a different technique to get rid of them, which I will do in a little bit. So I don't need all of these kind of little tidbits of probably just 1 pixel or 2 pixels each. And I'm glad this happened because it probably will happen to you at some point too. So it's a good way for you to overcome them. So I think this is one of those little pieces as well. And so is this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and just merge the legs this time, make sure that that's what they are. So I'm just going to put them all together here and just merge down just the legs so they're all in one set. And then I'm also going to merge the hulls so they're in one set as well. Merge down, okay, and this one as well. Right, and then I'm just going to make sure that all this is the same color. So this is going to be the kind of top part of the mech, and this thing's going to fold down, which is good. And here are the legs as well. And the reason why I did all this is because I wanted to move the legs or the hull a little bit up higher and the legs a little bit lower. Again, always evaluating the silhouette, and it is working for me, looking at the silhouette from different angles. This is a godsend really in ZBrush 2020, especially in the design process. It helps speed things up. So this is looking more chunkier than I initially expected, but I think for an armored mech, it's working fine. All right, so last but not least, let's go ahead and choose these pieces. So that's going to be the pilot station where the pilot is going to sit. And I am going to move that into place as well. Okay, so this is going to be the back part, back station. So let's move that in the back. And I haven't decided if I'm going to have that design or not. But, and then this is the front pilot station over here. And I have to decide whether this looks good like this. Maybe a little bit smaller like that. And I think that works for me, so that's going to stay there. And then last but not least, there is this part, which is the arms that we did. And I think that's not looking very good where it is. Let's see if we can move it to somewhere else and have it work, or we can probably just use the arms and maybe not that top part. So here I'm just going to solo that part out and erase, delete hidden, close holes, and I'm just going to be using this mechanism as the arms. So bring everything back and move this back into place somewhere over here, and find a good place for it. And I'm going to choose the pivot to be where the arms are, and again always evaluating the silhouette. And I kind of like the way the arms are in out of the way here, but let's see if they look any better, maybe up this way and down this way. Right, so we don't want the arms to clash with the legs. So what I'm going to do here is try and see if I can move the pivot over here and open these up. I'm not really worried about this middle center part because it's going to be hidden inside of the mech, but let's see if the arms look good over here. No, but let's see if I make this a lot smaller and move it over this way, if that makes it a bit more compelling. Okay, so I think at this point I'm going to shrink these even down further, bring them closer together like this. And that's not working as well as I'd like. Well, it might be that we don't really use these arms. I'm just going to leave this here. Maybe let's see if I can rotate it out even more and place these inside the mech like this. And then I'll just grow them out with kit bash parts later. But I just need to figure out some sort of a silhouette that works for these. Yep, I think I've exhausted this part, so I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way back to the way it was about here, which was what worked. And see if I'm just going to, I'm just going to leave it like this, I think, for now, and then I'll adjust it later on. Okay, so again, I'm going to fill this with my color that I had. I'm going to fill all these with that same orange color. And at this point, I am completely done with my design. This is going to be the final design. It looks a little bit too busy over here, so one more time I will reevaluate whether I want to include those arms. And I think I'm going to forego those arms. I'm going to figure something else out for the arms, or maybe this front leg could be the arms. So I'm just going to agree to leave that out. I think we struggled with it too much, and sometimes if you're struggling with something too much, that means it should not belong there. And I probably need to create some attachments for the legs, but this is going to be the winning design right here. And at this point, I'm ready to move on to the next stage. At this point, we've arrived at a very important milestone, and that is that we have established the primary form. So here, this is going to be the final mech we're going to develop from this point forward. A lot of work went into getting this result, and the good news is that from that work we have a lot of leftovers that we can use for future projects. But for now, this is going to be our primary form, so we're evaluating the silhouette from the different kind of primary angles of the front and the side and the top. And so if we like it at this point, this is where we would get a sign-off on our project if this was a production. So we'd get a sign-off from maybe the director or art director or some folks in production. But as far as we're concerned, since this project is being art directed by me, I'm happy with this design, and this is going to be the one we're going to move forward. So the next step is, after we've established that, is to go ahead and figure out the human factors. So first thing we'll do is we'll drop in a couple of humans, and I've included these guys in the project file so you can use them for your own projects. But basically, it's always good to establish the scale. So here we can see that this machine is going to be a rather large tank, a lot more akin to, let's say, an industrial vehicle. And the reason why it needs to be this size is, of course, the specifications that we had, which is that people need to fit inside of it. So I've actually I have a driver model that I got from 3D Scan Store. And what I've done is I've decimated it, and I've created a smaller version of it that I can use in vehicles and whatnot. And if I turn transparency on here, you can see the folks here in the vehicle. So I will go ahead and turn off the legs and these two guys so we can see how they would fit inside of the hull. So here's a version of the hull that basically is a merged version, and I just did that so that I can put the humans inside. So here we can see that the 8 passengers, or the payload, is going to be sitting comfortably in this area. I've got enough room for them to be able to stand up and move out of the vehicle and have some room here, maybe in the middle, for where between the passengers, where the armament machine is going to be that moves it back and forth and all that. We have a gunner that sits over here on top. And over these two, this is where the ammo would be stored, in this top compartment, and maybe some over here. And we have the driver that sits over here, and the commander that sits over here. So we don't have anything viewing out of here. I'm assuming that there might be some maybe mirrored periscopes that pop into here, but most everything probably would be camera driven at this point. So this is a kind of a nice step to go through to establish how people fit in it. And it works out really well too, because if this is going to be used in a game or a movie, and there is human interaction with it, that you've actually set up that for them, and you've made that determination so they don't have to figure out how humans go into it. A lot of times if you see cutouts or cutaways or diagrams of spaceships and whatnot, it's an afterthought, but I think it's a good idea to go in designing it that way so that you can get a better understanding of how they would be working in that environment, and also make it easier on the production designers to be able to manufacture these things and use them in the movies. And also maybe for the director it's a good idea, because they get an idea of how to set up their shots and camera angles and whatnot to show human interaction with these devices. So here we are. Now we've got the human aspect of it determined. I guess from this point forward, what we need to do is move to a state where we can go ahead and start parting this out into separate parts, using Kitbash's pieces for some of them, and then modeling the rest, so we can arrive to a final model that we can take into rendering and look dev.